talking about Tolkien, Ben.
When last we left our heroes, Thorin had been taken by the Elf King.
Yeah, and Bilbo saved the day, and he just started yeeting rocks into spiders. He's a future Major League Baseball player. I understand one of his ancestors, or maybe it was just another Hobbit, they invented golf, but Bilbo's on to baseball. I think that's just a few years away.
You heard about all the birth certificate scandals in baseball?
Oh my God, no.
Oh, like trying to get, I don't know if it's like, I've heard it both ways, I think. I've heard like somebody was trying to fudge a birth certificate to be younger so that they could compete in like the Little League World Series, and it's like very clearly like a 22-year-old. Like parents had children with the same name. Like they named the older brother and the younger brother the same name so that they'd have a legitimate birth certificate. They'd submit the younger brother's birth certificate and the older brother would show up and nobody would necessarily clock it at first. And that's kind of what Bilbo's got on, because Bilbo was like, what, 40?
They're showing up and fucking like Barry Bonds is at the Little League.
But he looks like a child. So I think he could get this. Yeah.
So this is chapter 9, Barrels Out of Bond. James Bond.
Barrels out of James Bond. Okay.
So, the Hobbit and the dwarves, they're like, well, we're gonna die. That's all there is to it. But luckily...
I do love how that chapter starts. It's like the epic conclusion of Bilbo fighting off every spider in Mirkwood, followed by the like next chapter. It's like, well, guys, we had a good run.
All right, well, we were saved from spiders, and now we get to starve to death. So,
thanks, Bilbo.
I guess, yeah, good job, idiot.
I was tripped out on spider venom. Now I get to watch myself die.
There's not even a point in pulling a Donner Party here because just no one has any meat left on them to eat.
Bomber's like, speak for your damn selves.
Well, yeah, everyone's turning to Bomber like,
Bomber's like, I'm the only one with any strength.
He was the one that was poked the most by the spider. But yeah, they're like, all right, we're all going to die. So, had a good run. But luckily, that's only like half a page, and then the elves show up to get him.
And I do love that scene too, because the elves show up and they're like, throw down your weapons, and they're like, oh, sweet. Thank God.
Yeah. Oh, good. You're taking us into custody. Thank you, Jesus. Also, we don't have weapons. Yeah? I guess they had knives still. They're throwing down their little butter knives.
And Bilbo's slipping on a certain ring.
And far to the south, the necromancer is like, oh, there you go. Found the ring.
Talking about me? He does the anime thing where he sneezes. It's like, what's going on here? And Gandalf punches him in the face one more time. Epic battle taking place off screen, unless you're watching the Peter Jackson films, in which case it's very much on screen.
And it's not so epic.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. Sauron cannot sense where the ring is. If he could.
Unless it's in his domain.
He would have had a much easier time finding it. Especially when it was right next to him in Mirkwood, and Bilbo was using it constantly for like 2 weeks straight at least.
Yeah, non-stop. That's what happens. So Bilbo slips on his ring. All the dwarves are taken into custody. Bilbo just slides in there. He slides into the elves' DMs. Dungeon mate. Anyway, so he slides on in there. He finds where all the dwarves are.
Dungeon maze, because it's a little maze.
They're
all in different like levels and stuff.
Yeah, he spends like 2 weeks invisible, and it's a good thing that ring does not corrupt you when you use it in this book. That would have been unfortunate. So Bilbo, he like maps out the entire fortress. He leaves on occasion, goes on some hunting parties with the elves, trying to figure out where they are, but he's afraid to like wander too far. and the kingdom is sealed off by like a magic gate. So not exactly sure how he plans to get them out, but Thorin gives Bilbo a message, and Bilbo relays that to the rest of the dwarves, like, don't talk, don't snitch, okay? Snitches get stitches. That's what Thorin said.
And Bilbo's like, okay, but Thorin, like, for real? I don't have a plan. I'm invisible here. You guys are being fed. I'm not. I'm stealing whatever food I can, and if I get caught, I may well be executed. We could just tell them what we're doing and pay them. And Thorin's like, no, I'm not in the habit. I didn't get rich by writing a lot of checks, Bilbo.
The last time we decided to have a business transaction with elves, my entire family got wiped out.
Bilbo's like, that's not what happened. You weren't there. It wasn't your family. It was a different line of dwarves.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we could just promise them a share the loot. And Thorin's like, nope.
And Thorin goes, I got their share of the loot right here. Bam!
Thorin gives him the old, don't worry, Bilbo, I believe you can do it. It's like my boss. They give me the feedback that I don't ask for help often enough. And then when I do ask for help, they're like, well, look at it a little bit longer and see if you can figure it out. And I was like, oh, well, thanks. That was great help.
Perfect. So maybe you should just have an email that just automatically sends every Friday, hey, you have any words of wisdom for me this week? You fucking asshole. So yeah. Bilbo is playing Skyrim with maxed out sneak and an invisibility potion, and he's got to find his way out of here and also lead 13 very visible dwarves out as well. And finally, he comes up with an ingenious plan. Ready? We are going to throw them in the trash chute.
Okay, this came out first.
Yeah, I know. I actually just made the connection. I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the elven version of the trash chute is we just throw it in the river. They say that, like later on, some elves and some men, they pull the barrels out, and I'll see it when I believe it. For all I know, they're just throwing barrels in the river, and it's not our problem anymore.
They're reusing the barrels.
Yeah,
it's a feudal medieval society. Like the occupation of cooper is a noble trade and highly paid. Like barrels aren't cheap. The guy who makes the barrels is like...
I just remembered what a fucking cooper was because of you.
Yeah. Dude, I'll plug it again. You Google Cooper or go to YouTube and type in Cooper or Cooper barrel making. You'll find a video of this old guy who makes a bucket live on camera, and it's fascinating. If you thought charcoal was interesting, you have not seen a professional Cooper. Slowly but surely on this book podcast, I'm discovering the outdoors.
Yeah.
Did you know you can make things with your own hands?
I did not.
I don't even know. We've been spending so much time trying to get robots to do this. We could just be paying people and it'd be like way more efficient.
Absolutely not, Ben. I'm not going to get rich by writing a lot of checks. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
So, Bilbo, he's going to get all the dwarves out, lead them into the cellar, stuff them in a barrel, and kick them into the river. First, he's got to get those keys. And luckily, this is the Autumn Feast, Ben. He didn't know that. I don't know how he didn't know that. I guess no one was talking about it, but he got real lucky that this is the Autumn Feast. So all the guards in the lower quarters, they weren't around. And
I was gonna save this for the lore section, but we might as well bring it up now. So, Nate, what do you think is more likely? That Bilbo is fluent in the Sylvan dialect of the Sindarin language, or he just made up all the conversations the elves were having?
Oh, they didn't all just speak common?
I mean, they do speak common, but presumably not to each other.
Okay. But why?
And
Common
it's
is
called
just such a
Westron.
better language. It's just a better language. You know what I'm saying? Like,
The elves have canonical opinions on what the better language is, and spoiler, they argue about it amongst themselves. Like, there's multiple different elven languages, and it's
Ben.
Quenya. Quenya is the best.
Ben, I'm not going to listen to a bunch of knife-eared losers who pack onto a ship and sail off into the sunset after we defeat the Dark Lord for them. So yeah, take your dead language with you, asshole. I speak common now.
It's called Westron.
Which is what we're going to rename it, because it's going to be the most common language. Suck my human dick.
Okay. But yeah, I did wonder about that. I think this was before, again, Tolkien had not planned on fitting it into Lord of the Rings yet, but in Lord of the Rings, languages will be mentioned frequently, and everybody's always speaking a different language, and everybody has 3 different names for everything in each language, and presumably in the halls of the Elf King in Mirkwood, where they hate everybody and they don't want to talk to anybody else, I do not think they are speaking
Oh, is that what their deal
Westron.
is? They're just like really shitty elves?
All elves are kind of snobs.
Yeah, but is this one like extra strength douchey?
Well, they live in Mirkwood. It's not
Yeah,
the
but
easiest place to
presumably-
get to.
Presumably it wasn't always called Mirkwood. Maybe it was called like Sunshine Forest before the Fire Nation attacked, Ben.
It was actually called
Okay.
the Greenwood before
There you go.
the Third Age when Sauron attacked.
Oh my god.
It has only been renamed to Mirkwood. I forget when the quest for Erebor happens. I think it was about 1,000 years into the Third Age. Sauron pops up again.
He does that.
That's when they named it Mirkwood.
How long ago was that? How long ago is that compared to where we are now? And did they know it was Sauron?
So the quest for Erebor happens in 2941 of the Third Age. I wrote some of this down. I didn't expect you'd want to go so far into the dates. So let me... about 1050, Sauron came back. So it's been almost, 1900 years?
Wow. God. That's a
Yeah.
long time, Ben.
Yeah.
We were still in like Rome 1900 years ago. Me personally, I mean.
Me personally. I believe you. Yeah, about 1900 years ago. It was called Greenwood the Great. Yeah, Bilbo speaks a dozen languages. I do think canonically Bilbo speaks Elvish, but I don't know where he learned Elvish. I assumed maybe he learned it like on his adventure, or after his adventure, but he must have known it before. He is a nerd, so that's possible. And he's listening to all these elf conversations, figures out there's a feast going on. This is his chance.
So, yeah, the butler and the head guard, they're in the wine cellar, and they're like, why don't we taste a little bit of this wine? For the king, right? Like, we'll drink it, and we'll just make sure it's as delicious as it should be. And they didn't realize that shit is strong. And also, they took their antidepressants beforehand, so that just boosted the effect, and they were out, Ben. They collapsed. So Bilbo didn't even have to hit him with a rock or anything, which is really nice, because it'd probably be a little less kid-friendly if Bilbo went around just, like, ganking people left and right.
I mean, he does, but they don't call them people. Again,
yeah, I mean,
they're just sentient creatures with hopes, dreams, friends, family.
Well, most of their hopes and dreams are, how can we eat people? So, like, fuck them. I'm glad they're dead, Ben. If anything, I say, let's go burn down the rest of the forest where they live. Let's hunt them to extinction, and
The elves also
be
live
done
there.
with it. Yeah, not for very long. Give it a few books, they'll move out.
Maybe a few thousand years. They're working their way.
Besides, burning down the trees, Ben, that's just a polite way of saying maybe you should move somewhere else.
Look, those elves have been trying to move out since the First Age.
We'll do it already. Get on your ships and go.
You are dealing. We'll talk about this in the lore section, but you are dealing with a complicated immigration situation there. Emigration situation, I guess.
Okay, here's what we do. We build a wall, and we just gradually keep moving that wall until the elves are on the other side of it. All
Build
right?
a wall to keep the spider people out? Is that what you're saying?
Oh god, if there are spider people, we need to burn those, like, immediately.
The spider people aren't
That
sending
is something
their
that
best?
should not be. Yeah. No, I think they are sending their best, and that's the problem, Ben.
Oh my god.
Their best are a bunch of murderers, and
that is worst. That is worst. Wow. Okay.
So, Bilbo gets the keys. He gets every dwarf out. He leads them down to the cellar. He decides to replace the keys. At least that's what Bilbo says. He definitely didn't do anything like, I don't know, dunk that guy's hand in some water or some less PG stuff to that unconscious guard. And the dwarves are like, great. What's the plan, Bilbo? We always knew you'd get us out. We always knew, like, really happy to have you here. Gandalf, he was right. He was right. So what's the plan? And Bilbo's like, I'm going to put you in a barrel and throw you in the river. And they're like, you fucking idiot. You killed us all. God damn it. I knew Gandalf was leading us astray. Fucking, God. And Bilbo's like, all right. Well, I don't have another plan. So,
maybe we can
how
go with
about
your
you
plan.
Yeah,
maybe
we'll go with your
plan's
plan.
better. Why don't you tell me what you want to do?
Oh, what's that? You don't have a plan? All right.
And
All right. Well,
get
we can just go back to the cells then.
Fucking barrel, Thorin.
You got a choice: barrel or cell. That's your choice.
You remember that time you were gonna leave me, in the goblin prisons, to be literally getting the barrel, Thorin.
So he gets him in some barrels, and the elves come up, and they're like, "God, why are you asleep?" And he's like, I was resting my eyes. I'm cool to drive, officer." Oh, God.
Why are you asleep? Why are you late? That's the better question. I got tired of waiting for you, so I fell asleep because I was waiting down here. I was on time. It is actually...
Meanwhile, he's covered in alcohol.
And next to
him.
an equally drunk man who's still asleep.
And they're like, okay, whatever.
Oh, let's sing our barrel song.
And they're like, well, first they're like, wait a minute. Some of these barrels are still full. These are really heavy. And he's like, yeah, they're heavy because you're drunk. I'm not drunk. You're drunk, okay? Get the barrel in the river and sing our barrel song while we do it.
But there's a critical flaw in Bilbo's plan.
Is this where Willy Wonka got it from? You gotta sing a song while you do stuff?
No, I think that was just slavery.
Oh, okay. And, yeah, Bilbo, there's a critical flaw in his plan, Ben. That flaw being, the barrels are over there, being loaded into the river, and I'm over here, not inside one of them. So that's not great.
Down
and
the
we
swift
all
dark stream you go, back to the lands you once did know. The barrel making song flows better than some of the other songs, I will say. I could sing
Yeah,
this.
because they're elves. They know rhythm, Ben. They know rhyme. Think the goblins know that? No. Goblins are idiots.
I mean, they can build bombs. And Tolkien
Yeah.
hates chemical weapons, so that's
Yeah,
you know
and where are they at the end of the Third Age? That's right.
that's actually a question George R. R. Martin famously asked shortly after "What is Aragorn's tax policy?" He asked, "Did Aragorn kill all the baby orcs?"
There, trick question. There are no baby orcs.
There
Or
are. They don't
female
come out of the
orcs,
ground. That's the
or
one
male
thing I
orcs.
actually hate from the Peter Jackson movies, where they're like weird mud creatures. And no, they're born. Orcs fuck. Canon. That happens.
Doubtful. I want to see some orc genitals to confirm.
I'm sure I can find you a picture. The internet doth provide.
So how far does this chapter actually go? Bilbo jumps on a barrel, and he starts spinning round and round, and then, and then the elves they like realize that the dwarves are escaping, and they signal to close the gate. But then some goblins led by Azog shows up, and he attacks them. And then Legolas is there for some reason, and there's a female elf who fell in love with Feely, and she's like, "I'll save you." And they open the gate, and then the dwarves have to avoid being shot or stabbed as they go down the river, Ben.
Oh yeah, and it's some of the most embarrassing CGI you've ever seen.
Awful. Yeah, it does look terrible.
Like,
no, what
worse
happens
than
is
a
they
video
get
game.
away because duh.
Like
why
I think
wouldn't
my
they get away?
computer could have rendered that sequence in real time. It's objectively terrible. Anyone who likes it is wrong. The barrel chase scene in the movie is horrible. Any awards it won should be taken away, sold, and put to the use of remaking that scene. But yeah, that doesn't happen. In the book, they just go down the river.
Yeah.
They get to a place where people collect the barrels. And Bilbo has to steal... He steals a bottle of wine and some guy's sandwich.
Yeah, he does.
And he runs off into the woods and eats it while the dwarves are still stuck in the barrels. Then the guys put the barrels on the raft to take them the rest of the way.
And that's the end.
That's the end.
Okay, Ben. Drop some lore on me.
So this was a pretty light chapter. So I decided to go back and fix a mistake. Something I probably should have covered in the other chapter, but we kind of ran a little long with those. Norse inspirations.
Oh my god.
Merkvidr. That's
Bless
the
you.
Old Norse name for Mirkwood. Literally.
Did he just rip that off? Is that what you're telling me?
Mirkwood is mentioned several times in the Eddic sources. And I think I will let Tolkien speak for himself. This is from Tolkien's letters.
And what he said was, it's not plagiarism if you don't get caught. Suck my dick.
He says, Mirkwood is not an invention of mine, but a very ancient name, weighted with legendary associations. It was probably the primitive Germanic name for the great mountainous forest regions that anciently formed a barrier to the south of the lands of the Germanic expansion. In some traditions, it became especially used to refer to the boundary between the Goths and the Huns. I speak now from memory. Its ancientness seems indicated by its appearance in very early German as Mirkwidu, although I don't speak German. Although the Mirkwood stem dark is not otherwise found in German at all. It survives in Old English as Mercy, where it refers to gloomy. You can find that in Beowulf. But he thought it seemed good. It seemed too good fortune that Mirkwood remained A, intelligible, and B, had exactly the right vibe. Kind of a creepy forest. And if you want to find Mirkwood in the Eddic sources,
get a map.
It's actually in our favorite poem, Locusenna.
Oh, okay.
It is also mentioned in Atlakviða, which is about Attila the Hun, and Helgakviða Hundingsbana, which
Wait,
is also about
there's
Attila the
a,
Hun.
there are, what? Attila the
That's
Hun is in Viking,
he married Viking women. Yeah.
what the fuck?
Yeah. No, they got along.
Huh. Well, okay then.
Yeah. Yeah, the Huns made it really
I,
far.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know dick about any of the Scandinavian history until they start pillaging England.
No, there are several poems. These are the heroic poems, not about the gods necessarily, but yeah, there's several poems in the Poetic Edda about Attila the Hun. The more you know. So, and then I thought maybe I'd answer some questions about who are the Wood Elves? A question you didn't ask.
No, I said that they were a bunch of cannibalistic little cretins, and I was drawing on my Skyrim lore for that one, though, so, might not be correct. I think they practiced incest. No, that was the High Elves that did the incest. Yeah, who are the Wood Elves, Ben? And why are they such little assholes?
I was gonna let you go. Okay, so during the First Age, all the elves were hanging out in Middle Earth where they originally awoke. And the Valar invited them to return to live with them in Valinor. And and this is where it gets really fun, and we'll have to cover this again during Lord of the Rings. There were 4 groups of elves, we could say.
All right. You've got the Wood Elves, the High Elves, the Dark Elves, and the Israelites.
You wish it was that simple. There were the Avari. These were the ones who were like, the Valar were like, hey, come live with us. And they were like, fuck you, Dad. The Avari they don't go. The Avari don't give a shit.
They don't go. Oh, okay. Do they go back at the end of the age, or are they just?
No, they're just chilling.
Okay.
Not a lot.
Where are they located?
They're all over. They hang out. No, but not a lot written about them. To be perfectly honest, but they're out there. I think it's he fiddled with the notion that they like diminish as time goes on, perhaps like becoming like the more spirity elves of like mischievous fey lore that we encounter. I don't know
what you're saying is we got to take them out now at the end of the Third Age, so they don't get to be around for the Fifth Age.
I'm uncomfortable with how every time we talk about anything related to fantasy, you keep talking about how humanity needs to like dominate all the other fantasy species, and that's just a pin. Then there's 3 other groups of elves, right? There's the Vanyar.
Humanity's number 1.
There's
the Vanyar.
The Vanyar.
Okay.
The Vanyar are teachers' pets. The Valar are like, you should come live with us. And they're like, oh, Daddy, I would love to. And they just run. They run straight there.
When do the Valar say, like, come live with us? Like, when did this happen?
First Age.
Oh, shit. All right. So we never run into any of those assholes.
The Valar hate us. Like, it's a joke. There's a subreddit called Silmarillion memes, and it is often joked about that the meme we always use, the lady holding the baby in the pool, and that's the elves, and then the kid drowning next to them is the dwarves, and then the skeleton on the bottom is the humans, and the lady is the Valar. Wow. I think a half human talks to a Valar once, and Mandos, one of the gods, is just like, kill him. He's like, but we really need your help to deal with Morgoth. And he's like, you're not allowed to be here. Die. Kill him.
Why?
He's not allowed to be there.
Us, Ben?
Said no humans. Kill him.
Okay, so this is why we have to dominate all the other species. We need to claw our way back into heaven.
You'd have
Yeah.
been Sauron's first follower. Okay, second group that heads out. The Noldor. These are the deep elves. These are the elves that you're probably going to be the most interested in. These are my favorite elves. These are
Is
the
this
ones
where
that make
Dritz Duerden is? Is
no,
that?
no, fuck all that. No, the Noldor, they make the rings. They make the Silmarils. These
Oh,
these
so
are the
they're
crafty guys. They got
they're
the
the
best.
assholes responsible for all this mess.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
They got the best tech. They got the best weapons. They got the best art.
I thought goblins had the best weapons, Ben.
No, Noldor take them out every time. The Noldor made Sting, Orcrist, Glamdring.
But they didn't make a bomb or mustard gas.
I don't know. When we eventually talk about what the Noldor did, I wouldn't put it past them.
Wow.
Then we got the third group. The third group.
I thought that was the third group.
Nope. Vanyar.
You talked
Okay. The
Vanyar,
the Avari don't
Okay.
go. The first group that goes is the Vanyar. The second group that goes is the Noldor.
Okay, the Avari are outside of these four because they
Yeah.
don't go back. Okay.
Yeah, they don't go back at all.
So
The
there are
Teleri-
5 tribes.
There's more than 5. The Teleri are the third group. This is like the biggest group. Okay. And these are kind of like, they're good kids, you know? A lot of potential. Don't always show it. Sometimes they get distracted. And they're like, the first 2 groups are like building ships. The Teleri will be along any day now. And then they're like, they set sail. And they're like, I don't know where the Teleri are coming from. And then, like, right as they're setting sail, a small group of the Teleri shows up. The Falmari, the Sea Elves that were mentioned. They show up and they're like, hey, no, we're coming. But then there's the Sindar and the Nondor, and they get to the forest and they're like, I'm good. Yeah, I'm looking at the river, and that's enough for me. I don't need an ocean. I don't want to sail. A month on a boat. No, I'm not feeling
I
it,
think
dog.
I think maybe you might be a coward. Yeah. I think you might
Well, that's like your opinion, man. And you can think that, but like, I just need the woods and the trees. I think maybe you're too obsessed with like material possessions, and I just want to get back to my natural roots. I just want to chill in the forest. They're actually described as being like enamored with the rustic, simple way of life, and they chill, they hang out.
Yeah, but that's because they never had a Nintendo.
That they did never have a Nintendo. That's true. So they're less technologically advanced than the High Elves, which the High Elves, this is where we kind of get the separation. The High Elves are the elves that all went to Valinor. At least they've been there. And then the Wood Elves are, I'm Tolkien people, I know it's more complicated than this, but like, let's just pretend. The Wood Elves are like the ones that just didn't go. Stayed behind.
Okay, so they're not leaving at the end of the Third Age, like they.
No, they probably
said
will.
They would.
They probably
Like
they're
they-
not the Avari.
like
they're gonna go,
promised
but like
They would, Ben.
they're still working on it. In the Third Age, they're still working on it. Any day now. So they're not, crazy. They do fight evil. They fought in the War of the Last Alliance at the end of the Second Age, the war where Sauron is defeated and gets the ring cut off his hand. And actually, Thranduil, who is the king of the Wood Elves, in the titular elf king in this chapter. I don't know why I said titular. He's not in a title. He's the elf king. The one they keep calling elf king, his name's Thranduil. I'm sure that was made explicit in the movie by this point, but in the book, he's just the elf king. But his name is Thranduil.
And he's got a
Legolas's
crown
father.
for autumn and a crown for for spring. Oh, he's Legolas's father.
Yes.
I can see why Legolas is such a chode, Ben.
He is Legolas's father. So during the War of the Last Alliance, Thranduil's father, Orofer, was killed, along with 2/3 of the Sylvan army.
Got him.
Thranduil, his son, returns
2/3
with the
not enough. Let's go finish the job, guys.
Okay. And you just pro genocide all of a sudden. Okay, pro elf genocide. I think this is xenocide at this point. But Thranduil is crowned king, and he rules. I think until the end of the Third Age, and then of course in the Third Age, around the year 1050. Sauron returns, his corruption spreads throughout the Mirkwood, it becomes dark, uninhabitable, and they retreat mostly to Thranduil's
pack
fortress.
Up and leave?
They pack up and move north. So the Greenwood is huge, and the Wood Elves started out more southern than they currently are, but they've been slowly retreating north. And Thranduil's fortress, the Elf King's halls, is pretty stable. Nothing can really crack that. So they're kind of stopped
Other than
there.
These guns.
Yeah, possible. I mean, 1/3 of his army is still like 1,000 Legolases, so they're not nothing. But yeah, I actually have a chart of elves. I could share it.
Let's see what we got here.
See if you can do a better job of explaining it than I did.
That's pretty easy. So you got Quendi, the elves, right? That's like all the elves, and they're called Quendi, so they can eventually open up a franchise called Quendies, where they have a killer frosted drink. But is it a drink or is it a food?
They have to turn it upside down before they give it to you.
A little bit of that's Dairy Queen.
Oh no, that's Dairy Queen.
So there's inside the Quendi, there are the Eldar, which are further divided. Oh wait, no, my bad. There's the Avari and the Eldar. Okay, Avari are the ones who did it. They didn't go. They're like, right. Fuck that. The Eldar are the ones who go, and they're further divided into the Calaquendi, elves of the light who have seen the light of the two trees of Valinor, and the Moraquendi, elves of the darkness, who have not seen the light of the two trees of Valinor.
That's the light elves and dark elves from Norse myth, yeah.
So the dark elves, they haven't seen Valinor before then.
Correct.
But they're like, I'm down to go. And it looks like the Avari are also in the Moraquendi. So maybe they should go.
They're light Moraquendi. Like, the Avari are not going to go to Valinor, but the Teleri will.
Alright, so then there's the Vanyar and the Noldor, which are fair elves and deep elves. They're in the Calaquendi. There's the Falmari, the sea elves, who are also Calaquendi, but they're part of the Teleri, which are broken up into the Falmiri, which are Calaquendi, and the Sindar and Nandor, which are Moraquendi. And the Sindar, those are gray elves, while the Nandor, those are the green and wood elves. Now, the Sindar are broken up into shore elves, which are Falathirim, and Mithirim, the gray elves. So the gray, just going to go over that again. The gray elves are broken down into a group called the Gray Elves, and also shore elves. And the green and wood elves are just broken down into green and wood elves. Apparently the green elves are of Denethor, so that's interesting. I didn't realize that Denethor had a whole elf troop behind it.
Different Denethor.
And the elves who did not go to Aman, but not because they refused. No, it's a man. Man's first, okay? Those are the Umanyar. They did not go, but not because they refused.
It just didn't make it.
They're part of the Teleri. Yeah, they didn't get on a boat and get the hell off of my planet.
The Falmeri, they finally make it. They get on a boat and they make it. The Sindar, they're like all the way to the shore, and they're like, I like the beach. I'm just gonna catch some waves, bruh. I'm just gonna ride the swell, you know? Like, it feels good. And then the Nandor didn't even make it that far. They were just
okay,
like,
I
like hiking. I like hiking.
It looks like all the Dark Elves don't go then.
Right, but they will. Some of them.
Oh, they don't go right away, is what you're telling me.
Yeah. They didn't decline the invitation. They just didn't show up. The Avari RSVP'd, fuck you.
That's rude, to not RSVP. Like, as far as I'm concerned, you don't get into heaven anymore.
They told the Falmir, the Valar are pretty forgiving of everyone but men.
Yeah, so it's really their fault when I start committing atrocities, is what you're telling me.
We tried to commit atrocities once against the Valar, and it didn't work out. To be fair, we didn't have cruise missiles back then.
Yeah, I bet we could give them a run for their money.
We'd make a dent in the Valar these days, I think. But yeah, that's that chapter. Well, and I think that will more than do it for the Barrels Out of Bonds chapter of The Hobbit, which I think we went way too in depth on. As always, this has been another episode of Talking About Tolkien. If you would like to get the episodes as soon as I'm done editing them, and if you would like to get some of the bonus material we're planning around The Hobbit, because I have not been super consistent with getting these out early, then you should sign up to our Patreon. Ignore that part where I said I wasn't super consistent. Not good advertising. But the Patreon is really more about like a show of support. So for as little as $2, you could get... Look, frankly, at this point, it's just bonus material. I'm not going to lie to you people. So yeah, check it out.